slight levelling just before the finish every lap. And as we watch the field roll away here on this opening lap, one rider has gone clear, and he is the young Colombian rider Raul Montana, a new professional rider. And the worst fears of the riders realised. It's already 90 degrees Fahrenheit with the temperatures tipped to reach 100. And this is Raul Montana. His lead has now gone up quite dramatically, actually. But now as we come round to the end of lap number 10, Montana, who had a maximum lead of 4 minutes and 15 seconds, has been swept up by the field. And more or less, he came back to them. He simply cracked. And the rider going away now is his Colombian teammate here, Luis Espinosa. So he's trying to carry on what Montana has done for 110 kilometres. And 20 minutes 34 seconds. Well, the first lap was the quickest when Montana went clear so far. That was 18 minutes and 35 seconds. A very quick lap indeed. Nothing else has gone inside 19 minutes. Over 3.5 hours now. So they're reckoning another 3 hours in the saddle. 9 laps to go. And here is our first chance to see Luis Espinosa. Well, the Colombians have come here to distinguish themselves, perhaps because the world title will be in Colombia next year. But my goodness me, even if they may like the hot weather, this is severely hot today. And now we've got the Swiss rider down there being trailed by another one of the Spanish riders. The Spanish rider has been quite active today as well. And that is Fabian Jecker of Switzerland. And alongside him there is Francesco Cabello. Well, Cabello, in fact, was a winner of the stage in England of the Tour de France this year when it came down into Brighton. They're trying to get across now, but the bunch have reacted very, very quickly, and Espinosa not getting away now. Small little group getting off. 3, 6, 8 riders trying to split from the field. The first really big flurry of activity. We saw a small group break clear to try and get down, catch Montana briefly, but the field have been very, very vigilant indeed. And the stars, I think, are waiting to play the cards in the last 2 hours of this race, because it is a very exposed course, as you can see, and judging by the parched terrain here in Sicily, every indication that the sun is going to burn just as hot as it does every day. What a nice picture that is, though. A long, thin line of a very angry field now as the World Championship enters the most crucial phase. Montana, by the way, has retired almost immediately after being caught. He lasted about another 15 kilometres. And I think Espinosa is realising too that his escape is not going to have any effect on these riders. They're just monitoring his progress. They've always got him where they want him. Rides for the Spanish Artiac team. Next year, of course, the World Championships will have moved into October. That might provide us with a very different race. This is Ralph Yerman trying to get across on the climb. First chance to have a look at the climb. Loosely translated, it literally is called the Road to Victory and reaches the finishing line on the top. But the field have been content to keep the tempo and keep control of everybody. Pedro Delgado of Spain at the head of the field, riding his last World Championship. And Espinosa, I think, is going to have company very, very soon indeed. Ralph Yerman looking over his shoulder now. But the field are coming back together, and in fact an immediate counter-attack here. It looks like Lee Sherwin from Australia ending his first full season, but sadly rumours are not holding his contract in Europe next year. 8 laps to go now. Another quick lap, 20 minutes and 18 seconds. Now the field is all together. And now we're going to see a very different race. That looked like Richard Virenque trying to get up. Just one rider dangling off the front. I don't think it's Espinosa. I think we've just caught him. Richard Virenque now, well, what a different rider he's become this year. In fact, it is still Espinosa. So Espinosa just hanging on. Well, not anymore. Swept away by a very active Richard Virenque of France. And now the Italians are putting in an appearance. This is David Cassani. And number 8 is Giovanni Farazin. Farazin also having a great season. Well, the Italians are going to want to do well here. They've waited now, but now they feel it's time for a change. They've allowed two Colombians to dictate this race so far, but now just look at the number of blue jerseys in that lead group. There's a slight split in the pack. Sign of tired legs as they come up towards the end of the lap. And very fast rhythm indeed, and a good lap time. Look at that, 19 minutes and 16 seconds now. That's a fast lap. And Cassani takes them through as they complete lap number 12. 7 laps to go. 7 times 13 kilometers, and that'll bring them up to the full distance of 252 kilometers. Massimo Girotto takes a look across at who's setting the pace now. They're starting to try and work out who are the strong men as we head in towards the high afternoon sun. Temperatures now are 96 degrees Fahrenheit. And Massimo Girotto looking around, seeing who's going to help. And it seems to be the French are marking the Italians very, very closely here. This is Massimo Padenzana, for the last 2 years the champion of Italy. So they're all putting the weight in behind the attack now. The tactic is keep the pace high and see what happens. The Italians are very, very good at this. They're reported to be on a massive bonus if they provide the winner on the team. Some in the region of about $300,000 they'll share. Well, it's not so long ago when the Dutch dominated the world road race, the days of Jan Roos and Jerry Knetman. And in fact, used to see the orange jerseys rather of Holland bashing it out at the front like this. But these last few years, it's been all Italy. Ever since Gianni Bugno won the Milan-San Remo in a record average speed, then went on to absolutely eclipse the Tour of Italy field, which took him to the world #1 ranking position. Bugno a non-starter today, by the way. And they forced to split the Italians. But that peloton by far from giving up, forming its traditional arrowhead as they try to hold that breakaway. Gianluca Bortolami, what an amazing turnabout his season's having. He's really now a very, very serious challenger for the World Cup after his win in the Leeds Classic and indeed 6th in San Sebastian, and also winning the Championship of Zurich. Once a great domestique, and now he's heading up to be a leader. He's in that little breakaway. 250 there. That's Ansenio Gonzalez of Spain. Steve Barr of Canada here, tapping out the rhythm. Robert Miller on the far side for the British team, riding for TVM, of course. An attack by Pedro Delgado, who says goodbye to world-class racing this year. Hangs up his wheels. He's been a marvellous cyclist. Winner of the Tour de France in 1988. Tour of Spain victories as well. He'll be sadly missed, Pedro Delgado, Perico. But a lot of big names are leaving the sport this year. Phil Anderson expected to retire as well from Australia. Greg LeMond seems as though he's teetering on the brink of retirement. Well, I suppose it's all right if you're a spectator, but for the riders now, this hill is becoming a real mountain. A very difficult climb indeed. And still, the Spanish riders trying to launch the little pace at the front. And this rider up here now is still Gonzalez. In fact, he swapped places with Delgado. Delgado went back into the field. Gonzalez is holding his own at the front now. And that's Scott Sunderland of Australia, who's up there on the right of our picture. The Germans have come across. Could well be Rolf Aldag setting the pace. And just behind him, Claudio Chipucci, taking a little bit of a turn for the better now with some of the big names coming up. 6 laps to go, and they've got a split on the field. Now, that small little group. Again, it's been forced on the climb. This is Gonzalez. The Spanish have been very active today. The Spanish speakers, indeed. Let's not forget Colombia. Now, Gonzalez will be very pleased if he takes a look over his shoulder, because he can't expect to win the world title on the break at this stage on his own. But if he can get this group across to him, then it might be a different championship. That's why he's looking over, seeing what's coming, and that group is coming up. He spotted it. Now he's going to relax a little bit, let them come up. rest while he can and see just who is in this group. Well, this is quite a significant group. There's Claudio Chiappucci there. Ralph Aldag is here, Scott Sunderland. Vastly underrated rider. Very, very upset that TVM didn't name him in the Tour de France team this year. And I think with some reason, but then unfortunately he's Australian and not Dutch. Rolf Aldag at the front of that group. There's a nice picture for you, as long as you don't fall off. Not a lot of reaction coming from the field. Now they're sort of forming their own opinions of what's in that breakaway. Just seeing who's prepared to take up the chase. The French have got riders up there, the Italians have. So that's why the Dutch are going to have to do something about it. Not surprisingly, I think that's Martin Den Bakker who's at the head there. There's Sunderland. Aldag unloading his pockets a bit early on. Richard Virenque is here. Claudio Chiappucci went out of the Tour de France with a high temperature. And that's Virenque actually shouting at Chiappucci to keep the gaps closed. Also in this group, number 106 there. And that is Udo Boltz, another German rider. So we've got Aldag and Boltz. This is Aldag. Long legs of Rolf Aldag. Very good finisher though. Boltz is more the rider for the win. He's had a marvellous Tour de France. In fact, this year he had a great season. Chiappucci always gets in the moves. Now this is the Mike Engelman here, trying to bring Lance Armstrong, I would suspect, back into the action and drag them through a bit, because Armstrong is going to have to get up there sooner or later. Ronan Pensek is on the left, and Pensek being left to go through over Mike Engelman. French have got three riders in that chase group. And the benefit of the helicopter, seeing that this group is getting away a little bit now. Udo Boltz, Richard Virenque, Scott Sunderland. And that's rather a cruel picture for the riders in these conditions, I would suggest. And this is a very useful carrot now. There's the first time check, 30 seconds. And it was all started by that rider there, Arsenio Gonzalez. I think the Dutch rider who's got up here is Eric Breukink. Gonzalez there on the wheel of Aldag. And now, is there going to be some reaction here? That was, I think it was Vyacheslav Bobrik who was waving his arms around. And this is a chase behind, I think, one or two riders in the pack. They've had a crash here, and one of the falls has been Bortolami, and I think the other one was Farazin. And so that's who they are, trying to get back into the action. They've been left behind a little bit, but they're coming through well as Bortolami. And the other rider is Gianni Farazin. So these two riders back through the convoy, trying to rejoin the field as fast as they can. Well, they were almost at the head of affairs when they went down, but they were off our camera. We never saw them go. We charged out through the Valley of the Temples. The steepest point comes in the last kilometre of this climb. It's around about 13%. And then you have about 300 metres of flat and semi-flat that takes you right up to the finish line itself. So it's not entirely a sprinter's race, this. It's a strong man's race. If you can make your move early and then hang on to the end. Sunderland. Gonzalez. Riding very, very well indeed. And there's Bobrik coming up now. Vyacheslav Bobrik. Figured first we heard of him was in the Tour de Pont, actually the Tour de Trump in those days, 1989. As a young member of the Russian, or the Soviet team as it was then. He led the race for a while before he met his, got cooked in the Devil's Kitchen, I seem to remember, in the Catskill Mountains. And Raul Alcala went on to the victory. Well, Raul Alcala, one of the noted non-starters today, and that's another rider who'll be hanging up his wheels at the end of this season. Another personality gone from the field. Here's Bobrick. Great friend of Evgeny Berzan. They moved together when they turned pro, and of course Berzan this year has won in great style the Tour of Italy, but since then has not really had the form. Well, Farazin and Bortolami are almost on the tail of that peloton now, we hear. And we're on the climb itself. And this is Bobrick. Well, the peloton are right up behind that breakaway now, rather sadly, because they've picked up all the lead cars. Martin Brun there from Holland, the chief commissaire, trying to get things sorted out and get all of these motorbikes out of the way, because they're going to close in very rapidly now. We're going to see a regrouping here, I think. Now, this is the head of affairs at the front. And this rider here looks like Peter Ugramov. And it is indeed. Ugramov, followed by number 10, Thurlin, winner of Milan San Remo. And a very good season he's having as well. The Italians have got so much strength now. Number 99, Richard Virenque. So there's been a general regrouping on the climb, but it's already cracking again as we approach the 5-hour mark. Scott Sunderland still there at the head, keeping the tempo nice at 5 laps to go. 19:27, that's a very quick lap. And it looks to me as though Armstrong's going across in that little group. Lance Armstrong, the defending champion. The field has split this time. Up on the 5th climb, 5 laps to go rather. The field has gone. Chiappucci's trapped in what is appearing to be the 3rd group now, and at the back of it at that, as Ugramov, the champion of that final week of the Tour de France this year, when he really did take on Miguel Indurain. Took a little bit of time out of him, although you have to feel that Miguel let him take it at times without using too much energy. But even so, he finished 2nd overall, and this is now Francisco Casagrande, another Italian having a dig. On the descent through Agrigento and away from the finishing line. Casagrande, not a great winner, won a small race this year, the Grand Prix of the Industry, but he is an excellent rider and one that everybody wants on their team, a really strong rider, number 4. One day he's going to win a big event, I'm quite sure of that, Casagrande, if he gets his chance. Well, Ugramov is feeling that it's time to try and break up this race. Everybody's paying a little bit too much attention because they're continually closing the gap. Sooner or later, the elastic must snap. There's Armstrong slipping back down the line, having a check out. This is Udo Boltz doing likewise. Podenzana goes through. 2nd year, the champion of Italy, but that seems to be the only thing he ever does, is win the championship of Italy. He's not a great performer in races away from his home country, but he certainly puts up the odd good performance. Richard Virenque, Claudio Chiappucci, and that was a quick shot of Dmitry Konishev. And this is Bobrick playing a big part again, and David Cassani. Cassani is one of those solid riders. I remember him leading in the King of the Mountains in the Tour de France a couple of years back, and he was laughing because he doesn't see himself as a climber, but he is certainly a very aggressive rider. Been a pro since 1982, I think. It's 12 years as a professional. Now, there's no real pattern forming yet, except the strength of the Italians is clearly noted. And Richard Virenque of France consistently up in the moves as well. And there's the chance to see Armstrong now. Eric Breukink goes through as well. Petr Ugramov. Now, any one of these names would be worthy of a world championship. And there's Bjorn Ries from Denmark, also up here now. Laurent Madois. Maurizio Fondriest. Now, these riders have all come. Fondriest has refound his form after his operation at the start of the season, which kept him out of the Tour de France and Tour of Italy. He made his comeback in the Tour of Great Britain, and in fact he won that race, having won in the opening time trial. He scored again during the race in the next time trial, ran out the winner, and since then has been back on form. Whether he'll have the legs to go the distance though. André Schmil, 271, World Cup leader, has won Paris-Roubaix this year, but he's struggling a bit in the World Cup now. I don't think he's going to make it. Well, it looks to be about 25 riders forming at the front. Another Italian up there is Bruno Cenghialta. This is the champion of Switzerland now, Felice Puttini. Not a big rider, but he's picked up the championship, and in fact he finished 17th in the World Championships last year. He may well have read the right move again too. And Cubinho, 260, is the Spanish rider who's made this split. Scott Sunderland again in a move. Armstrong, inspired by his victory last year, the adrenaline still flowing perhaps, feeling that this is his jersey and he's not going to lose it lightly. He's read the move well so far. And this is Chiappucci trying to get across. I think he's got Dmitry Konishev with him there. The rider's using the only slope on the course to repair or make good whatever they've got, gains or losses. Now just look at the boys in blue here, the Italians. Number 12 is Pantani, Marco Pantani, the find of the year. One of the nicest climbers I've ever seen in action, and his second and third places are two big tours. This course really should suit him. It finishes on top of the hill. So the riders still in the breakaway, setting the pace nicely, and we've got in fact the chase being enacted now by this man here. And in fact Claudio Chiappucci has got Stefan Erlo of France going across with him. And look at the power as he goes up this climb. He's got the big ring on and he's trying very, very hard to close this gap quickly before that breakaway goes clear. Erlo is not going to help him because he knows he has a teammate up there, but so too does Chiappucci, who doesn't seem concerned about that fact. He's getting himself across. He won't see Erlo as a long-term danger man, I don't think, so he may feel it's worth the gamble. And there's another rider there in absolute no man's land as well. Chiappucci, that fine piece of riding for him. He's on the tail, and in fact somebody else has come up as well. Quite a little group has got across. They've caught Chiappucci on the climb. They've put in about 4 or 5 more riders up there now. Pace being set by Cenghialta. Now we have a large number of Italian jerseys in this lead group. Things are going according to plan, I would think. Cenghialta setting the pace. Cubinho, stage winner this year in the Tour of Italy. Surprisingly, it wasn't a particularly mountainous stage. Well, it was hilly, but it had a flat finish and he won it. He held on by the skin of his racing shorts. And this is Francisco Casagrande. Scott Sunderland. Almost in the camera there was Cubinho. And so the riders now looking to me as though they're starting to build themselves a little lead. There should be a lot of concern in the main field. The Germans have put a lot of riders up in the front of that chase. Here's Casagrande. Keeping himself in a nice rhythm on the climb. His job here is simply as a workhorse. They won't be counting on him to win the World Championship. Massimo Girotto is also up here. That's an interesting name. I've never spoken to Girotto. I've seen him race just about everywhere in the world, and he's always done a performance sooner or later. Stage winner in the Tour de France in the past. I remember him winning in Geneva and at Buzinej, where Robert Miller went off course just before the finish line. He will come up with a result somewhere, always. But it's left to Casagrande to keep the pace going. Tenth this year in the Championship of Zurich. He was second overall in the Tour of the Mining Valleys. And Girotto, time for a shower. And time to do a bit of work, it seems. And there's still one more Italian rider here. He's still trying to get across. I haven't actually identified him, but he's down there and he's trying desperately to reach across the group. But it looks as though it might be, from what the commentator is saying, Gianni Farazin, who's trying to get across. And Scott Sunderland, so upset with his team this year because he's had moments of brilliance. As the pace now being led by Massimo Girotto. This is Bjorn Ries, number 73. Another man who has excelled these last couple of years, as has many riders from Denmark in fact, and the popularity of the sport in Denmark now has gone through the roof. 35 seconds is the gap. It's not a lot, especially on this climb. Girotto continues his pace, stage winner this year in the Giro d'Italia, and in fact he won the Tour of the Mining Valleys, which Casagrande was second in, and that was his first stage victory, by the way, in 12 years of cycling for Girotto, Massimo Girotto. Now Bjorn Ries comes through and wants to see the finish. Eric Breukink coming up the climb here too. No, it's not Breukink, it's Eric Decker then. This is the second group up on the climb. Well, it's becoming something of a war of attrition here, because those that stick the nose out front seem to be hauled in on the climb each lap. This is the last kilometre of the climb now. They're just through the steepest part. And this is Bortolami trying to get in touch with them as well. He's had his ups and downs quite literally today, and it's Girotto setting the pace. The Italians are really trying to force this now. They will need to get a much smaller group, I think. They haven't really got any great sprinters. They've got riders who will wear the field down and possibly ride away to victory on this climb, and that may be what they're thinking. Men like Chiappucci could ride away on this climb, and Girotto's prepared to keep the pace high. Sunderland, Breukink, that's the orders to go through. There's Richard Virenque looking around rather quizzically. It's a big group this now. Bjorn Ries in the red for Denmark. There's Breukink. This is Sunderland. And Girotto has done a sterling ride up this climb. He really has. He's kept the pace so high. He's got a group of around 24 riders here. Coming through to the end of the lap. 5 hours and 13 minutes in the lead. Or rather, the race has gone for 5 hours and 13 minutes. And they're left now with 4 laps to go. Well, that was Stefan Erlo who's led them through, but I don't think he'll survive very long. 46 seconds and counting has gone through. Eric Decker bringing through a chase group. In fact, it's almost a minute. Johan Bruneel of Belgium is in this group. Bobrick. And in fact, Erlo is trying to make the best of his escape towards the top of that climb. He's really going hard here. The trouble is, you see, once you're off the hill, you've got this wide section of road with long views and visibility, and it's really difficult for a rider to slip the field. Hulot, and they're trying to finish him off very, very quickly. Well, the French seem to be offering the biggest challenge to the Italians as a team. They've got a number of riders up in this breakaway. How cycling fortunes switch, because the Dutch now really don't seem to be in this race at all. They've got Dekker chasing, they've got Breukink in the group, and Breukink needs a good performance because the rumours are he's losing his contract with Once, the Spanish team. He hasn't turned out to be the big winner, which they paid the big money for. But Hulot is forcing the Italians to chase, and that will use effort. And so if nothing else, that will help, possibly later. Armstrong. As with all the Americans, as in the days of Greg LeMond, the Americans have to watch the moves and try and go with them because they have no team at this stage. They've all gone. A number have retired, one or two are still back in the main field. But they did their job early on to keep Lance up near the front. It's cost them their place or a possible finish, I think. But now they've done their job because they've got Armstrong into the lead group, and this lead group beginning to look rather decisive. And Armstrong still continuing to do some pacemaking. He's at the front of the chase. They're keeping Hulot in sight, but my goodness me, he's going well. Rides alongside Miguel Indurain on the Benesto squad. Indurain has always had a little bit of a penchant for employing French riders on his team. He speaks a little bit of French himself. He prefers to speak in Spanish, but he does speak French. And Bortolami in the breakaway takes a look at Bobrick. Well, it's taking a lot of effort here, and the Italians are having to do all of the work. But they're slowly reeling him in, and they've got him, and the rider first across is Bruno Cenghialta. Cenghialta continues. Sunderland takes a drink. And Stefan Hulot drops down the line a little bit. The pace continues. The Italians, you see, want to keep the pace high. Casagrande is going back to give the leaders a workout there. Cenghialta for Fondriest is here. He's taking as much rest as he can down the back of the line. He may be one of their star cards. This is Cassani, little old David Cassani. He's won about 16, 17 races as a professional in those 12 years as a pro, but he's been a real good workhorse on many, many occasions. Won a stage in the Giro d'Italia last year. A little bit of repair on the move. And this will be for Dmitry Konishev. No, is it Bobrick? No, it's Konishev. Dmitry Konishev, who started to fly the flag for Russia and the Soviet Union when they turned professional. And he did it, of course, in the year that Greg LeMond picked up the gold medal. And Konishev just pipped Sean Kelly. And Sean Kelly always rues that day in 1989 in Chambéry because he feels that was the one chance he had of a world championship, because Kelly too is out of the sport at the end of this year and didn't start this race, by the way, and the gap is 1:38. A nice healthy start to the day. There's the champion of Switzerland, Puttini. This is Johan Brunel. He's in the chase group, and Dekker. But just to conclude that little story there about Kelly, Kelly will always tell you he went out to see the course finish in Chambéry the day before. The wind was in a different direction, and he in fact chose to use a 13 top gear because he felt it would be a headwind sprint, and in fact the wind changed. It was a tailwind, and it was a suitable sprint for a 12 top gear, and he was beaten by Greg LeMond. He never says that he would have beaten Greg LeMond to that World Championship, but he says he would have had a better chance of doing so. But he does feel that was the one time when the championship was there for the taking, and he never got it. And Konishev came through good there. Konishev taking silver, and since then has won the stage in the Tour de France in Paris, apart from other stages as well. Comes up with the odd good performance. Now he's in this breakaway. Well, it's a little bit like a moonscape. As the riders are on the climb again, the Italians are continuing to set the pace. Nobody willing to help them. They know the pressure on the Italians. They know they've got to do a performance in their own country. But Tifosi will not be pleased if they don't win. And so the others aren't going to help them too much. Number 95 here is Laurent Madouas. Well, it's a good ride by Laurent. There's the breakaway. A little chase group down there which contains Decker and Brunel and co. But that's a good lead now. They can keep the pressure on and don't start cat and mousing around, the Italians and the French particularly, and then I don't think anybody will get up here. Francisco Casagrande looking quite casual on the climb. Laurent Madouas just behind him. Castorama rider Cyril Guimard has a lot of time for Madouas. He reckons he's a real talent. And the French marking well. Richard Virenque is also in this breakaway, and he's just behind Casagrande. There he is. Brilliant Tour de France for Virenque, finishing with the King of the Mountains jersey on his shoulders and that memorable stage win at Les Ardennes. Well, I can only imagine Casagrande is a throwaway card, and he's sent up here to set the pace, and Armstrong does well just to ride in fourth place. Keep an eye on things. Udo Bolts goes through there. Puttini, Cassani is up here. This is an amazing breakaway group. Cenghialta has gone through. I think there are 7 Italians now in this group, and I think we've got 5 Frenchmen. There's Luc Leblanc. Who rode so well to win the stage to Hautecam in the Tour de France when he was the only man to hold on to the fiery wheels of Miguel Indurain on that climb in the Pyrenees, and then he rode away from Miguel in the last few meters. Girotto, Chiappucci. So Chiappucci and Fondriest are probably the key cards for Italy. They're not doing any work, they're riding down the line. Jan Ries, a very strong man, sort of man who would try to go alone, given half a chance. Sorensen is also up here. Rolf Sorensen, his teammate, also a man who likes to go for gold early on. This is the chase group trying to get across. Still a lot of work to be done here. Eric Decker shot to the fore with his medal in the Olympic Games. Second year pro now, so we expect to see something from him next year, perhaps. These are the leaders back on the climb. 3 French riders have got the front of the field. Well, the French aren't going to be overawed by the Italians on home soil, that's for sure. You can tell a climber. Look at the face of Virenque in the centre, looking around. Very passive face indeed. He's certainly not a man under pressure at this point. Stefan Herlo has had a very, very good championship for France. Herlo. There's Armstrong, riding so well in defence of his world crown. It's not been a great season for Armstrong, but he's certainly risen to the occasion here. He rode to the occasion in Liège-Bastogne-Liège as well, where with a little bit more luck he would have won. But Armstrong going to have to now think of bigger fish to fry here in the World Championship. He finally got home in second place in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, outwitted by a late attack. Just look at the crowd here now on this Sicilian island. There's Fondriest. He looks to me as though he's a little bit under pressure, Fondriest. Giorgio Furlan, who got across, is alongside him. In fact, there's a number of Italians found the back seat, and keeping an eye on them all there, I think, was Luc Leblanc. And there's Sorensen, keeping his gears nicely down low if he can. His family have a house, by the way, on top of Morzine-Avoriaz, that wonderful climb in the Alps that the Tour de France visited this year and occasionally goes there. So if he ever needs to get any mountain training in, he only has to go to stay in the apartment, and off he goes. Bronk looks around, sees what's going on. Time for a drink for Stefan Erlo. 3 laps to go, almost 6 hours now. Another good time, 20:33. They're averaging out now, round about 20:30. Here's the chase group, but they're not really getting across. A minute 23, and Decker's disappeared from that group. In fact, I think he's down amongst the cars. There he is. I really can't see this group being brought back. Girotto sitting on the wheel of Casagrande. Eric Breukink. And number 95 is Laurent Madois. Breukink rather desperate for a good performance. It's not been a great year at all for Eric. Casagrande looks across to Girotto. I think he wants a little bit of a hand. Time for a rest. And Girotto having a word with him there. Now, it's not often we get a chance to fly above one of our own helicopters, but there we are. The other helicopter almost at road level with a very disjointed group down there. Rolf Aldag, the sprinter. Casagrande always willing to keep the pace going. Claudio Chiappucci, you never know what that man is going to do, and that's why we love him. He's as apt to attack on the flat as on the hills. Casagrande just drops back a little bit. Makes way for Dmitry Konishev. Always should be concerned about Konishev, but there are some really good names in this breakaway now, and because the Italians are so well represented and the French, every reason why the rest of the race may not get back up. The World Championships, by the way, they all began in 1927, and in fact Scott Sunderland is calling for his service car here. Well, let's hope. I don't see his tyres going down, so it may just be for a chat. Because remember that this is the only time in the year when they don't race on teams, they race for their country. So he will be talking, rather than to Case Preem, his team manager, he would talk to the Australian team manager, which could well be Heiko Salzwiedel, the former East German coach, who now resides in Australia as the national trainer. Salzwiedel trained the East German team that won the gold medals in the 1988 Olympic team time trial. Now he's getting a lot of success out of the Australian amateurs. They've just cleaned up in the medals in the Commonwealth Games in Canada before travelling down to Sicily, some of them, and now we've got another Italian deciding it's time to warm the day up even hotter. It's now around about 98 degrees Fahrenheit. Erlo very attentive, so the French clearly marking the Italians at every move. And the German, I think it's Aldag, trying to get across just off our camera there. So we've pulled a group of 6 clear. Now, time to shuffle the pack again. And it's gone on the flat roads, which is interesting to note. Try and make a run for the mountain. The guy who's done it is Bruno Cinghialta. There's the little chat is over for Scott Sunderland. Not a good time to do it, Scott, because that breakaway is split at the front. Armstrong riding 4 or 5 men down, just watching the moves. That's all he can do at this stage. There's nobody here to help him. Same applies to Eric Breukink in the orange. Cassani looking over his shoulder. And Rolf Sorensen seems to be shouting back at his team car or the commissaire or something. I'm not sure whether he's complaining about the proximity of the cars, because he is in fact shouting to the commissaire. Oh, I see. He wants his manager. He wants to know what's going on behind. Well, now he knows. And it's about a minute and a half, Rolf. Bjorn Ries at the front, followed by Aldag. Girotto. A lot of movement now with the following vehicles, and I think this is an indication that people are realising this is the breakaway that will decide the World Championship. And the Italians are the ones who are saying, well, if it is, we're going to win it. An attack immediately by Cinghialta. Immediately countered there. And it's Armand de las Cuevas. He came onto the back of the group early on. We haven't seen him do anything until now, and de las Cuevas has gone off. He's having his best season ever, de las Cuevas. This is the champion of Switzerland, Puttini. Cinghialta looking across to see what the attack did and realising maybe nothing. Puttini has gone through him. There he is. And Cinghialta hangs on. I think on this occasion it's going to be all back together again. And in fact, Cinghialta shouting at Puttini, who will understand him because they speak Italian as parts of Switzerland. And in fact, Puttini rides on an Italian team as well, a small one. And now Sorensen going. This is the sort of move that Sorensen would make. Rolf Sorensen always would expect to do it alone if he's going to do it at all. And so the tall Danish rider tarnished his reputation a little bit in the eyes of the British, at least, when he pulled the jersey of the Motorola rider Sean Yates when he was in the yellow jersey during a sprint for a valuable 6-second time bonus in the Tour de France this year. And in fact, by the end of the day, Museo was leading by, guess what, 6 seconds. And although Sean Yates normally would not beat Museo, it wasn't the thing to do. And Sorensen hasn't been allowed to forget that yet. Anyway, Sorensen now clear. Cassani has got him. Rolf's father, Jens, rode in the Olympic Games back in 1960, while Rolf took the plunge as a pro at the early age of 20.